I was drafted in December of 1966 into the Army. I was in the infantry. Of course, I went in as a private and came out in 1968 as a Specialist 4. I was in Delta Company, 5th to the 60th Mechanized Infantry, and our base camp was in a place called Bien Phuc, which I spent maybe a week out of the entire time I was in Vietnam. I often said that in that war you saw the best of humanity, and you also saw the worst of humanity, and it was like a stew that was served up to you every day. That I was afraid all the time. I really was. No matter the false bravado that you might put out to your friends and that front that you have to maintain so that the rest of the people in your squad will trust you.
Yeah.
I was an FNG when I first came there. That's what everybody called it. I didn't come in as a unit with people that I had trained with. I had been trained in different disciplines and different forts here in the United States. By the time I got sent there, I was a lone replacement.
Yes.
So I had no history of coming up with a bunch of guys that had been trained for, all along since basic training, and there was a lot of that.
And maybe you could define FNG.
An FNG was a fucking new guy, and everybody that was in Vietnam understands that, or knows that phrase.
Meaning you came in as a one.
It's just a single replacement. Somebody died, they sent Rouillard in. They dropped me off in the middle of a field in a rice paddy. It was the dry season. They dropped me off in the middle of a field. They loaded me in a Chinook in Bien Hoa Airport in Saigon, and there were Vietnamese in there with pigs and chickens and goats and all this kind of stuff in this American Chinook. They took me out and they dropped me in this field, and there was like 1,000 yards to any tree. Dropped me right there, M16, no ammunition, and a duffel bag. Somebody will be along to pick you up, they said. So what do? You just wait. One of the things about being a new guy is you shut up and you learn from everybody around you. You don't bring any agenda with you. You don't bring any of your lofty ideas or attitudes or anything, because that will isolate you from the rest of the crew. And you never want to be isolated when people are carrying loaded weapons. Shut up and you learn. And you find your place. You're actually kind of assigned a place. Some people were better at different things, some different trainings and stuff. I went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia for engineering. But while I was there, I was trained in demolition and so forth. In the day we would go out and build a bridge over a little creek or something like that, and then at night I'd go out and blow it up. And it served me well when I got to Vietnam, because I was really good with demolition. So everybody protected everybody else's talents. We had a guy that was really good with M60 machine gun. We carried extra rounds for him. We carried extra barrels for him because he was so good and he was fearless.
Wow.
So we did that extra bit for him, and then they did extra bits for me, and vice versa. And when you're 18 and 4 months, you're Superman. Nothing bothers you. You're invincible. You've been brought up on John Wayne and the invincibility of the Americans' military power. Impossible for anything bad to happen to you. So we went in with complete naivete.
Mixed with the fear that you talked about.
Fear comes. Yes, that's just something that just shows up at your door like paranoia. Shows up at your door. A lot of us have that stupid concept that if it's my turn to go, then I'll go. Otherwise, if it isn't, I'm going to come back. Well, actually, there was a mixture of stupidity, and that's what military powers depend on. They depend on getting you in and stripping you of your personality and making you part of the unit. This has been going on since Roman times, since the Hittites, since
long before that, no doubt. Yeah.
So they strip you, they mold you into, and they make you dependent on each other so that you become an efficient military unit. I had some special skills, I think, at being adaptable to these situations because of the way I was brought up as a child and so forth, living in several foster homes under different people's styles of bringing up children and stuff like that. And I had to adapt to those things, and I had to learn how to adapt to them after I realized that nothing was going to be stable in my life. So this Army thing was just another one of those instabilities that I was going to have to learn how to function within, knowing in my mind that it wasn't going to last forever.
So that was a real gift that maybe other soldiers wouldn't have had. You had developed an ability to step back from the reality that you were in and have an objective relationship to it, to not be completely immersed in it.
Absolutely.
But to know this is a temporal experience.
Yes.
And at the same time, you were immersed in it enough to function.
Enough,
So.
just enough. Yeah, there was several of us that were kind of friends, but you're very careful about forming friendships. Just time together necessarily made you more important to people the longer you spent with them.
Yes.
But even at that, there were some of them that didn't drink, some of them didn't smoke dope. We had, in our particular squad, we didn't allow anybody to drink or smoke dope because we couldn't depend on them.
Good for you.
And we had the lowest turnover in the entire company in our squad.
Wow, good for you.
And some were religious and some weren't. Some visited the prostitution houses and stuff like that, and some didn't. Some went to church, and some didn't. Which is something I kind of would like to throw in here, I guess. Someplace I wanted to put it in was one of the incongruities that sticks in my head to this day is to see GIs kneeling in a rice paddy with a chaplain, blessing them, and more or less saying, our side is more right than their side, so it's okay to go out and kill them. It's just that always stuck in my head as being so wrong, so almost hypocritical to say that God likes these children better than he likes those children, and we're in their land. I didn't have any family here really for any reason to really, but I came back to Minnesota. I'm a Minnesotan, I always have been, and I'm just used to the theater seasons, I guess. I just came back to Minnesota. And my friends from high school and so forth down in the cities, that's where I came back to. I had just gotten back from Nam, and I was just getting over being wounded in crutches and wheelchairs and stuff like that. And my friends in the cities were afraid of me. They were afraid of me on several different levels. Afraid of me for they didn't understand what I had been through. They didn't understand the concept of what I had been through, and it threatened them somehow. I'm not exactly sure how or why, but it did threaten them, and I was pretty much ostracized, except for one extraordinarily generous friend that I just barely knew in high school. And he more or less took me in. He says, you can come and live with me until you get your feet back under you and stuff like that. And the rest of the people, there was a lot of mistrust and fear.
How did you deal with that at that time?
Basically, I ignored them. I figured that if that's where you're coming from, if that's the way you're going to be, that's your problem. I gotta figure out a place for me in this world. Because that's what happened with so many of the FNGs when they got back to the United States. One day you were a card-carrying GI with an automatic rifle on your shoulder, and the next day you had civvies on. You were walking down the street. So you don't integrate quickly back into a society when they just take away your weapon and set you free on the street.
Yes.
Very difficult.
What's the answer?
John Lennon said it best. All you need is love.
I think that's a great way and time to end the interview.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob.